Welcome to episode 31 of Motivating Mondays, a weekly podcast and YouTube series dedicated to help Canadian job developers and other employer engagement professionals develop the tools, resources, expertise, and network to excel in achieving sustainable employment outcomes for their clients or students. My name is Christian St. Cyr, National Director of the Canadian Job Development Network, and today we're going to talk about Connexus 26, the annual gathering of career professionals from all across Canada to network, learn, and develop stronger career development practice. Now, typically in Motivating Mondays, I share a discussion topic, but today we're going to have a short conversation with CERIC about the benefits of job developers, co-op educators, and other career practitioners who might be thinking about attending the annual conference. I've had the pleasure of attending the Connexus conference a couple of times in the last decade or so, my first Connexus experience really was, close to 20 years ago, probably about 18 years ago. And I remember talking to a young guy working for a settlement organization, and his work was all about working with newcomers and helping them with their career transition. But he was asked to go to the Connexus conference by some of the people in the leadership team, and was grateful to go. And he went to Ottawa and had the most amazing experience. And I remember talking to him afterwards, and he said it was so eye-opening because before I went to Connexus, my experience in career development was my clients, my colleagues, the work that we were doing every single day. And to hear the discussion topics and to learn the new things and to connect with other people and to see what other organizations were doing just opened up his entire mind to what the career development sector could be. And that's what I love about Connexus. And so I'm thrilled to be joined this morning by Sharon Ferriss. Sharon is the Senior Director of Marketing and Communications with CERIC. They've been hosting this conference for 20 years now. The next conference is coming up on January 26th to 28th, 2026. It's available online and in person. They're typically attracting about 1,000 delegates to this conference. And it's an amazing experience. And so I wanted to talk about it from a job development or an employer engagement perspective. Please join me in welcoming Sharon. Sharon, thank you so much for joining us today.
Kristen, it's my pleasure to be here. And with that fantastic introduction, I feel like my work is already done.
Well, I did share a lot of the details. I know that guests often get frustrated when they get into the details before they get a chance to. But for someone who's never attended Connexus, what do you think that people mostly get out of it? Like, what is the great thing about attending Connexus?
A couple of things. So first, it is Canada's largest career development conference. As you said, about 1,000 people in person and close to that number virtually. So just the size and the diversity of it makes it a really special experience. I would also say the fact that it's pan-Canadian. So as you also suggested in your intro, you're going to be able to learn from colleagues across the country and take ideas back to your own community. In addition to this, something that distinguishes it is it's multi-sectoral. So you are going to meet career and employment professionals doing this work in all kinds of areas. So not only community-based agencies, but also post-secondary institutions within high schools, private sector career counselors that might work independently or within private sector employers. So you're really going to be able to connect with all kinds of players across the career ecosystem. And probably the most important reason to attend and what makes Connexus different and special, I will share some of the feedback that we've had over the years. One piece that really sticks with me is someone who said that at Connexus, they were able to find their flock. So that idea that a lot of the work that you're doing is, as you were sharing with your story, Christian, it's within your own organizations, within your own communities, and this is a chance to be around like-minded people, and people tend to find that very inspiring. Some of the words that I've written down include that the Connexus experience was energizing, supportive, welcoming, and transformative.
And honestly, like I'm a big fan of Connexus. I'm a big fan of career professionals networking generally, because I think this is a great national opportunity. I think there's local opportunities, there's provincial opportunities. But from a job developer's perspective, or a co-op educator, or anybody who really does employer engagement, what do you think are the things that they get out of Connexus that might be different than what a case manager or a facilitator might get?
of things that you could look forward in particular to the 2026 Connexus. So one element would be really stepping back from those job development specific sessions to get that full picture view of what's happening in career development and workforce development across the country. So that full lens on what are the emerging trends and issues. So for example, labor market information, or how AI is affecting jobs and skills, or there's also a real focus at Connexus on inclusive career development, whether that's, for example, working with neurodiverse clients, or perhaps just taking more of a culturally responsive approach to the work that's being done. So I'd say that big picture is one of the pieces. But then, of course, among the 140 different sessions that we're going to have at Connexus, there are also a lot of ones that deal more specifically with job development or employer engagement. And in advance of our conversation today, I was taking a look at them. And one of the things that struck me was a theme around partnerships, which I'm sure isn't necessarily new to anyone here on this call. That's probably core to the work that you do. But it really struck me that there were some interesting broad-based partnerships taking place, whether that was with municipalities, post-secondary institutions, industry, community agencies, all coming together within those local workforce ecosystems. And then there were also some specific industry-related sessions. So for example, job development in the tech sector and what's happening there, or employer engagement to support particular client groups, whether that's youth or newcomers, for example. And the other thing that they all had in common was really a focus on improving hiring outcomes for clients and retention, and on taking a skills-focused approach to recruitment in order to support employers in addressing their talent gaps. And what also jumped out to me were a couple of really interesting case studies that attendees could look forward to. One was, and actually a lot of them had to do with working with newcomer clients in particular. So one is the Employer Navigator program out of BC that you might be familiar with. Also, some interesting sessions around experiential learning for internationally educated professionals. So often you might think of those co-ops or internships more with a post-secondary student, but translating that to the IEP client base. And then there was also a really interesting session on flipping traditional job fairs on their head and instead hosting hiring events as a more effective alternative to that. So those are a couple of the specific job development sections that people can look forward to.
Those are all great topics and things that I've written about a number of times in just the last year. I'm curious. So the conference is 3 days, and not even 3 full days. You have 140 presentations, more than 140. How do you fit 140 presentations into 3 days?
Careful planning. That's a great question. So the first thing to know is that the main stage sessions that you'll see in person in Ottawa, as well as all of the virtual sessions at Connexus, are recorded. So you then have 3 months after the conference to go back and attend the sessions, or some of the sessions that you weren't able to in person. So that helps to extend the value of the learning. Another strategy that I see organizations take is building a team, bringing a team with them to Connexus, which then allows them to divide up the sessions. So for example, someone might be interested in attending all of the job development sessions, whereas somebody else might have an interest in counseling sessions, for example. So it's a chance to really re-energize and come together as a group if you bring a team. And something else I would flag on the program this year are something that we call carousel sessions. So basically with these, you get a 2-for-1. So it allows you to attend double the amount of sessions. How they work is that it is multiple sessions that are hosted at tables in the same room, and you get 25 minutes with a presenter, and then we'll ring a bell and you get to pick a second session that's of interest. So if you like to have more interactive conversations versus more of a traditional presentation, these are a nice option, and also a great opportunity to connect, because there's only going to be about a dozen of you at each table. So that's a way to take in more during the conference as well.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I'm curious, what are the benefits of attending in person versus online? Like, any senator I've ever heard who was interviewed from rural British Columbia talks about how far British Columbia is from Ottawa. And I think people get a lot out of attending in person. So, but I'm glad you have both options.
Yeah, that's really been important to us at CERIC as the organizers of Connexus to be able to continue to offer both flavors of attending the conference. So as you said, obviously the big benefits of attending virtually is that it's convenient, it's accessible, and it's more cost effective because you don't need to travel all the way to Ottawa if that's not in the budget or doesn't otherwise fit with what you have going on in your life at the time. But at the same time, immersive, the in-person conference is such an immersive experience. And one of the things that we hear from delegates is really the value of those impromptu hallway conversations, those folks that you happen to meet and strike up a conversation with that leads to something valuable that you can take back to your organization. And of course, the space that we hold the conference in Ottawa at the Rogers Centre is really beautiful, especially on a sunny day with light streaming in through those big windows that overlook Parliament Hill. And if anybody is a fan of outdoor activities, having the Rideau Canal right there at our doorstep, and for people that like to lace up their skates, that's a great opportunity to enjoy a little bit of the city amongst the learning. But either way, Connexus is going to inform and inspire you. You just get to pick the approach in person or virtual that best meets your needs.
Last year my wife and I brought our youngest son with. He toured Parliament, and we went ice skating on the Rideau Canal and ate beaver tails. Like it was a very Canadian experience.
But quintessential.
I'm curious about how the whole team benefits. What I'm always struck by when I talk to somebody who's attended Connexus is just that they bring back sort of a wealth of information for the team. What does that look like?
Well, I think first, as we were saying, there are just so many sessions at Connexus. Being able to bring a whole team means you can plan in advance who's going to be able to take what. And as I was also saying, you could divide it up by areas of interest. I should mention something that's new this year is we have a sector leader stream. So if you have executive directors, managers of your programs, supervisors, there is a stream that's dedicated to some of those leadership issues they might be addressing. So that really means that there is something for everybody on the team. And people also, I found, use it as a way to get a fresh start. The nice thing about Connexus is that it's held at the beginning of 2026 in January. So teams getting together offsite if you are able to attend in person, and then being able to equip themselves with some new ideas for the new year and really return to work feeling motivated and re-energized. So I'd say that's the benefit. And of course, another one is that you do get 20% off if you bring 5 or more people to the conference.
By the way, I know that members of Canadian Job Development Network get the 20% discount. Is it an either or situation?
That's right. It's 20% one way or the other.
Okay. And by the way, it's funny because I've been saying like basically since July, members of Canadian Job Development Network get this 20% discount. And I was never quite sure about how that works. But of course, you explained to me that it's a pull down menu when people do their registration.
Exactly. Yeah. Once you go to complete the registration process, you just select the supporting organization rate, and then you'll be prompted eventually with a question that asks you to select which supporting organization you're part of.
And that's a great discount, but this Friday is also an important deadline. What's that?
Yes, it's the early bird deadline, end of day this Friday, November 7th. And after that, rates will go up by about $50. And we all know that budgets are tight, so it's an opportunity to get in at this lower rate. And specifically to let you know, the early bird cost for a member of a supporting organization, so for all of you, is $542 for the in-person or $310 for the virtual conference.
That's amazing. We'll take questions in the group here in a second, but where can people go to get more information about it?
So connexus.ceric.ca.
Thank you so much, Sharon. I've had the pleasure of working with you and CERIC for more than a decade now, and I just want to thank you and your entire team for the amazing work you do in promoting this conference each year and developing it, but also in the funding of research and promoting career development among career practitioners. Thank you. Next week, Friday, November 14th, is the deadline to get the 20% early registration discount for anyone who wants to attend this year's labor market workshops, taking place respectively in British Columbia on November 28th and December 1st, and in Ontario on December 5th and 8th. Now, if you're in either of those provinces, we'd love it if you could attend. To take advantage of this early discount for participants, you need to register by next Friday at 5 p.m. If you want more information for British Columbia, go to labormarketonline.com LMI workshop. For Ontario, go to OntarioLabourMarketOnline.org/LMI workshop. Thank you so much for joining us. Please click the like or subscribe button in your platform. Search for Motivating Mondays wherever you download podcasts. We'd also love it if you could rate or review this podcast or subscribe to our YouTube channel. Now, we do these sessions live and for free every Monday morning on Microsoft Teams with job developers from across Canada. It'd be so great if you could join us. Just go to jobdevelopment.org to learn more. If you have any questions, you can send me an email directly, cstcyr@labormarketsolutions.ca. Thank you so much for your time and have an amazing week.